Mom and Dad handed over my home to my divorced sister without even asking me while I was recovering from surgery in another state, and they announced it casually during a family group call like they were telling me about the weather. I was lying in a hospital bed in Oregon, drainage tubes still attached to my abdomen from emergency gallbladder removal, when my phone lit up with the family video call. Dad's face filled the screen first, grinning like he'd just won something. "Gracie, honey, we have wonderful news. We moved Sophia into your place in Denver yesterday. She really needed it after the divorce, and since you're all the way in Portland now with that job, we figured you wouldn't mind." Wouldn't mind. My studio apartment that I'd scraped together a down payment for by working 3 jobs during grad school. The place I'd spent 2 years renovating with my own hands, stripping wallpaper at midnight after 12-hour shifts. The home I'd planned to return to in 3 weeks once my medical leave ended. Mom appeared on screen next to Dad, nodding enthusiastically. "Sophia's already painted your bedroom. She chose this lovely mauve color. Very calming." My fingers found the morphine drip button, but I didn't press it. I needed clarity, not fog. "You gave away my house. The one with my name on the deed." "Oh, don't be dramatic," Sophia's voice cut in as she joined the call from what used to be my living room. I recognized my grandmother's crocheted blanket draped over my couch behind her. "Mom and Dad still have their key from when they watered your plants last year. Technically, they just let me in. You're barely even there anymore." She'd changed her hair, I noticed distantly. Highlights, expensive ones. The kind her ex-husband Steven used to refuse to pay for because they were frivolous. Apparently, being newly divorced and homeless entitled her to my entire life. "I come back in 3 weeks," I said slowly, fighting the urge to scream. "Where exactly am I supposed to live?" Dad waved his hand dismissively. "You can stay with us until you figure something out. Your old bedroom's still there." My old bedroom. The one I'd left at 18, fleeing to college to escape their suffocating favoritism toward Sophia. The one with the twin bed and posters of bands I'd stopped listening to a decade ago. They expected me to cram my adult life into that childhood prison while my sister played house in the space I'd built. "The movers were so efficient," Mom added brightly. "We had them put all your things in storage. That nice facility off I-25. Sophia needed the closet space for her wardrobe. My things, my furniture, my books, my art, my life, packed into a concrete box so Sophia could spread out." I should have been furious. I should have been screaming. Instead, something cold and sharp crystallized in my chest, and I smiled. "That's really something," I said, voice honey-sweet. "I'm so glad Sophia's comfortable." The 3 of them blinked at me through their screens, clearly expecting tears or rage. Sophia's smug expression faltered slightly. "You're not upset?" Mom asked, suspicion creeping into her tone. "Why would I be upset? Family helps family, right?" I adjusted my hospital gown, wincing as the movement pulled at my incisions. "I'm just glad everyone's taken care of. You all enjoy yourselves." I ended the call before they could respond, then opened my contacts and scrolled to a name I hadn't used in months. Adrian, my real estate attorney friend from law school. We'd stayed close despite the distance, and he owed me a favor after I'd helped him study through the bar exam. But first, I pulled up my bank app and checked something I'd been monitoring for the past year. My home insurance policy, specifically. The one I'd updated 6 months ago when I'd gotten that promotion, increasing coverage to include full replacement value and adding a clause about unauthorized occupancy. I'd done it on a whim, remembering how casually my parents treated boundaries. Turned out my paranoia had been preparation. I drafted 3 emails before the pain medication made my vision blur. 1 to Adrian, 1 to my insurance company, 1 to the storage facility, requesting an itemized inventory with photographic evidence of every single item they'd received from my home. Sophia always did have terrible timing. She'd moved into my house the same week I'd been planning to list it for sale, capitalizing on Denver's skyrocketing market. I'd already received a preliminary offer, confidential and pending. The buyer was still interested. Their agent had confirmed yesterday. My sister had just moved into a house that was about to be sold out from under her. I pressed the morphine button finally, letting pharmaceutical peace wash over me as I composed one final text to my supervisor at the Portland office. Medical situation resolved. Requesting to make position permanent. Will relocate fully to Oregon. Mom and Dad had handed Sophia my past. They didn't realize they'd just given me the perfect excuse to destroy all 3 of their futures. My phone buzzed with Adrian's response. Call me when you're clear-headed. This sounds legally fascinating. Fascinating. That was one word for it. Adrian called me 4 hours later after the surgeon had cleared me for phone conversations. Grace, I pulled the county records. Your parents don't have any legal claim to that property, not even a co-signer status. I know. Then you understand, what they did constitutes illegal eviction and possibly trespassing, depending on how we frame it. Papers rustled on his end. But here's what concerns me. Your sister's already changing utilities into her name. She filed a change of address with USPS this morning. She's establishing residency fast. My stomach dropped. Sophia was smarter than I'd given her credit for. How long until that becomes a problem? In Colorado, 30 days of continuous occupancy can complicate things. Not impossible to overturn, but messier. He paused. You said you had a buyer interested? Luke Brennan, tech executive relocating from California. His agent reached out 3 months ago through that private listing service. Is the offer still valid? I pulled up my email with my free hand, the one not connected to an IV. Luke's agent had sent a follow-up yesterday, completely unaware of the chaos unfolding. He's offering $475,000. Cash sale, 30-day close. Adrian whistled. You bought that place for $225 years ago. I know what it's worth. I'd done the math 100 times, calculated exactly how that profit would fund my fresh start in Portland, away from my family's suffocating orbit. Can Sophia block the sale? Not if she has no legal interest in the property. But Grace, if you do this, you're nuking the bridge with your family. There's no coming back from it. Good. I'm tired of being the bridge they walk across whenever it's convenient. He was quiet for a moment. I'll draft the paperwork. But you need to move fast. Every day she's in there strengthens her position for a tenant claim. After we hung up, I opened the family group chat. 43 messages had accumulated since I'd left the call. Mom explaining how Sophia needed stability after Stephen left her. Dad saying I was overreacting to a temporary arrangement. Sophia sending photos of my bedroom, now decorated with her things, captioned, making it feel like home. My home, that she'd stolen. I typed one message. I need the key back, today. The response was immediate. Dad, don't be childish. Sophia needs this. Mom, we're very disappointed in your attitude. We raised you better than this selfishness. Sophia, Gracie, you're seriously going to kick me out? After everything I've been through? Everything she'd been through. Her marriage had ended because Stephen caught her cheating with his business partner, Brian. She'd walked away with half of nothing because Stephen had been drowning in debt she'd helped create. Now she expected me to subsidize her consequences. I blocked the group chat and called the locksmith company I'd used when I first bought the place. I need every lock changed on a property in Denver. Yes, I'll pay the emergency rate. Tomorrow morning, first thing. Then I called Luke's agent directly. Is your client still interested? I'd like to accept the offer, as soon as possible. The house sale would take 30 days to close. Sophia would fight it, probably convince our parents to hire a lawyer. I needed to make her position untenable before then. I opened my laptop, balancing it on the hospital tray table, and logged into my bank. The storage facility had charged my credit card $1,800 for the emergency move. I filed a dispute, flagging it as unauthorized use of my property. Then I contacted my insurance company, reporting the break-in and illegal occupancy. My phone rang. Sophia. I let it go to voicemail. She called again and again. The fourth time I answered. What? Grace, please, you have to understand. Stephen left me with nothing. I'm sleeping on Mom and Dad's couch was killing my back and I just needed, you needed my house. It was just sitting there. You're in Portland. You weren't using it and I thought, you thought you could take it because Mom and Dad have spent your entire life convincing you that what's mine is yours. I watched the morphine drip, counting drops. Did it occur to any of you to ask? We knew you'd say no. At least she was honest. You're right, I would have, because it's mine. Where am I supposed to go? Her voice cracked, theatrical. The same way it used to crack when she'd gotten caught stealing my clothes in high school, my car in college, my jewelry at her wedding. Figure it out. You're 40. Act like it. I hung up and blocked her number. The next morning, a nurse brought me a bouquet. Lilies and roses, expensive. The card read, Gracie, we love you. Let's talk when you're feeling better. We can work this out as a family. Mom and Dad. I handed the flowers to the nurse. These are yours. She looked confused. Are you sure? Positive. I'm allergic. I wasn't, but the lie felt appropriate. My phone buzzed with an email from Adrian. Locksmith confirmed for 8 a.m. tomorrow. I'm also drafting a formal eviction notice. This is going to get ugly. I smiled at the hospital ceiling, my abdomen aching where they'd cut me open. Ugly was exactly what I wanted. I was discharged from the hospital 5 days later with prescriptions I couldn't pronounce and instructions to avoid heavy lifting. Adrian picked me up, driving the 6 hours from Denver to Portland with my hospital bag and a folder thick with legal documents. Your sister filed a restraining order against the locksmith, he said, merging onto the highway. Claimed he was threatening her. My head snapped toward him. What? Judge denied it. She has no legal standing. But she's making noise, Grace. She hired Benjamin Kozlov. I knew that name. Kozlov specialized in tenant rights, and he was brutal. With what money? Your parents are funding it. They took out a loan against their house. Of course they did. 40 years of choosing Sophia over everything. Why stop now? Can he actually build a case? He's arguing implied permission based on your parents' key access and your absence from the property. It's thin, but if he can prove you'd verbally agreed to let family use the house while you were gone. I never agreed to anything. I know. But your mom's already given a statement saying you'd mentioned Sophia could stay there sometime during a phone call last year. I tried to remember. Had I? Maybe something vague. Back when Sophia had first separated from Stephen, some throwaway comment about having space if she needed it. But that was before she'd finalized the divorce, before I'd decided to sell, before any of this. That won't hold up, I said, but uncertainty crept in. Probably not, but it'll delay things. Kozlov's requesting a 30-day continuance on the eviction hearing to gather evidence. If the judge grants it, your house sale falls through. Luke's offer required a clear title and vacant possession. If Sophia was still there in 30 days, he'd walk. The Denver market was already cooling, prices dropping weekly. I'd lose the profit window I'd been counting on. What do we do? Adrian glanced at me. Offensive strategy. We stop playing defense and hit them where it hurts. He outlined it during the rest of the drive. First, file a police report for breaking and entering even if it went nowhere. Create a paper trail. Second, invoice my parents for every day of unauthorized occupancy, establishing rental value. Third, submit the storage facility charges to small claims court. Fourth, and most important, dig into Sophia's finances. If she's paying Kozlov's retainer, that money came from somewhere, Adrian said. Your parents can't have much liquidity if they're taking loans. Find the source. I spent my first week back in Portland in my corporate apartment, laptop open, piecing together my sister's financial life. Her social media was public, shameless, photos of her at expensive restaurants tagged with locations, new clothes with designer labels, a spa day receipt she'd posted showing a $700 bill. Stephen had left her broke, our parents were mortgaged. So where was this money coming from? I found it on day 9. Sophia had listed my furniture on Facebook Marketplace. My mid-century credenza, $1,500. My grandmother's china cabinet, $800. My custom bookshelves, $1,000. All marked sold within the past week. She wasn't just living in my house. She was liquidating my life. I screenshotted everything and sent it to Adrian with shaking hands. Then I called the buyers one by one, using the contact information visible in the public comments. Most had already picked up their items. 2 hadn't. Ma'am, I'm the actual owner of that furniture, I told a woman who'd bought my dining table. The person who sold it to you had no legal right. I'm going to need it returned. I paid for it fair and square, and I can provide the police report proving it was stolen property. You can return it voluntarily, or I can have officers collect it. Your choice. She hung up. 10 minutes later, she called back. I'll bring it to the address you give me. I recovered 4 pieces. The rest were gone, scattered across Denver to people who wouldn't answer my calls. Adrian filed an emergency motion, documenting the theft and sale of my property. The judge granted an immediate hearing, scheduled for 3 days out. The night before the hearing, my phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. Grace, it's Brooke. My cousin, Sophia's best friend since childhood. I need to tell you something. I waited. Sophia's planning to claim you abandoned the property. She has emails you sent last year about maybe selling, and she's going to say you'd given up on the house anyway, so her moving in wasn't really harmful. Why are you telling me this? Brooke hesitated. Because she's also saying things about you, bad things, that you're mentally unstable from the surgery, that you've always been jealous of her, that you're doing this out of spite. She paused. Grace, I know you. This isn't spite. This is theft. I felt something loosen in my chest. Not everyone was blind. Thank you. There's more. Your parents are telling extended family that you're cutting them off over nothing, making you look like the villain. Sophia's been playing victim at every family gathering. You need to control the narrative. She was right. I'd been so focused on the legal battle, I'd forgotten about the court of public opinion. I spent that night drafting an email to every aunt, uncle, and cousin in my contact list. No emotions, just facts. The timeline of events, screenshots of Sophia selling my furniture, copies of the legal filings, the offer from Luke proving I'd intended to sell before any of this started. Subject line, setting the record straight. I hit send at midnight and turned off my phone. The hearing was at 9 a.m. Adrian met me outside the courthouse looking grim. Kozlov's good. He's bringing character witnesses, your parents, some of Sophia's friends. They're going to paint you as vindictive. Let them. I straightened my blazer, still too thin from the surgery and hospital stay. I have receipts. The judge was a woman in her 60s, reading glasses perched on her nose, expression unreadable. She listened to Kozlov's opening argument, where he painted Sophia as a desperate domestic violence survivor who'd been offered sanctuary by loving parents. Domestic violence? I whispered to Adrian. News to me, too, he muttered. Then it was our turn. Adrian presented the deed, the timeline, the police report, the furniture sales. He showed the judge my hospital records, proving I'd been incapacitated when the move occurred. Your Honor, he concluded, this isn't a family dispute. It's theft, trespassing, and conversion of property. Ms. Grace owned this home outright. Her sister had no permission, no lease, no legal basis to occupy it or sell its contents. The judge looked at Sophia. Did you have written permission to enter this property? My parents? Do your parents own the property? Sophia's lawyer jumped in. Your Honor, we're arguing implied familial permission based on... Counselor, I asked your client a yes or no question. The judge's voice was sharp. Did your parents own this property, Ms. Sophia? My sister's face crumbled. No. Then they couldn't grant permission they didn't have. The judge signed something. Eviction granted. You have 48 hours to vacate. All remaining personal property belonging to Ms. Grace is to be returned intact, or she may pursue criminal charges for theft. Kozlov stood. Your Honor, we'd like to request... Denied. This hearing is concluded. I walked out of that courthouse with Adrian beside me and didn't look back at my family clustered on the benches behind us. You won, Adrian said. Not yet, I replied. That was just the beginning. Sophia didn't leave in 48 hours. She left in 90 minutes. I drove to Denver the next day, arriving to find a moving truck in my driveway and my sister throwing boxes into it with violent efficiency. Mom and Dad stood on the lawn, looking shattered. I parked on the street and didn't get out. Just watched through the windshield as Sophia hauled my life back out of my house, her face blotchy with rage. She saw me, marched to my car, yanked open the door. Happy now? Not yet. You're destroying this family over a house. A house, Grace. No, you destroyed this family when you stole from me. I'm just making sure you pay for it. I met her eyes. Where's my grandmother's china cabinet? Her face went pale. That's what I thought. I pulled out my phone, showed her the invoice I'd sent to her email that morning. $17,400. That's the appraised value of everything you sold. I want it by end of business tomorrow, or I'm filing criminal theft charges. I don't have $17,000. Then you shouldn't have stolen $17,000 worth of my property. I started to close the car door, but she blocked it. Please, Grace, please. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I'll make it right somehow. You're sorry you got caught. I looked past her to our parents. All of you are. Dad approached, hands raised like I was a wild animal. Gracie, sweetheart, can we just talk about this as a family? We're not a family. Families don't steal from each other. Mom's face hardened. After everything we've done for you, we raised you, we supported you. You supported Sophia. I raised myself. I yanked the door closed and locked it. Through the glass, I said, You have until tonight to get everything out. Every hanger, every nail hole filled, every surface cleaned. Adrian will be here at 8 to document the condition. I drove away while they were still shouting. Luke's closing happened exactly 30 days later. I signed the papers remotely from Portland, watching the wire transfer hit my account. $475,000, minus Adrian's fees and the closing costs. Enough to buy a place in Portland outright and still have 6 figures left over. The same day, I received an email from Kozlov on behalf of Sophia. She was offering a payment plan for the stolen items, $200 a month for 7 years. I forwarded it to Adrian with one word: no. He filed the criminal complaint that afternoon. The police contacted me a week later. They'd interviewed Sophia, who'd claimed she didn't know the furniture wasn't hers to sell. The detective's tone suggested he didn't believe her, but without proof of intent, the DA probably wouldn't prosecute. However, he added, this does give you grounds for a civil suit. You could take her to court for the full value plus damages. I filed the paperwork myself, representing Procy, the way Adrian had taught me. The court date was set for 3 months out. In the meantime, I got to work on the rest of it. My parents' mortgage company received an anonymous tip that they'd taken out a loan under false pretenses, claiming it was for home improvements when it was actually for legal fees. I had no idea if that violated their loan terms, but I figured it was worth investigating. Sophia's employer, a dental office where she worked as a receptionist, received copies of the court documents showing her theft conviction pending. I didn't editorialize, just forwarded public record. And every single family member who'd contacted me to both sides, the situation received the same response: a link to the court ruling and a polite decline to discuss it further. The silence from my family was deafening. No more calls, no more texts, no more flowers. Perfect. 3 weeks before the civil trial, I received a settlement offer. Sophia would pay $5,000 immediately and sign a promissory note for the remaining $12,000. Adrian advised me to take it. You'll never get blood from that stone anyway. But I didn't want money. I wanted consequences. I rejected the offer and showed up to court with an itemized spreadsheet of every piece of furniture, every dish, every book she'd stolen and sold. I had receipts, photographs, appraisals. Sophia showed up with Kozlov and a story about how the divorce had left her mentally fragile, how she'd made mistakes but was trying to rebuild her life. The judge awarded me $18,200 plus court costs. Sophia's face crumpled. I don't have that kind of money. Then I guess you'll be making payments for a very long time, the judge said. Wage garnishment starts next month. I walked out of that courthouse and deleted every family contact from my phone. Adrian met me for coffee afterward. You did it. You actually won. I know. I sipped my latte, watching traffic through the window. So why don't you look happy? I thought about that. Sophia would be paying me for the next decade, a constant reminder of what she'd done. My parents had spent their retirement savings on a lawyer who couldn't save their golden child. I had a beautiful new condo in Portland, a promotion at work, and a life completely free of their toxicity. I am happy, I said finally. This is just what happy looks like when you've stopped setting yourself on fire to keep other people warm. He raised his cup. To boundaries. To consequences, I corrected, and we drank to that. The garnishment hit Sophia's paycheck 6 weeks later. $375 bi-weekly, straight from her dental office to my account. It would take her roughly 5 years to pay off the full amount. I set up an automatic transfer that sent every penny to a scholarship fund for first-generation college students. She'd never know, and I didn't care. The money had stopped mattering the moment the judge's gavel fell. What mattered was the lesson. My parents called from a blocked number 2 months after the judgment. I let it ring through, then listened to the voicemail. Dad's voice, smaller than I'd ever heard it. Gracie, we need to talk about Thanksgiving. Your mother's not doing well, and we hoped you might reconsider this estrangement. Sophia's sorry. We're all sorry. Can't we just move past this? Move past it. As if I was supposed to forget they'd handed away my home like it was a borrowed sweater. I deleted the message and blocked the number. Thanksgiving came and went. I spent it with Adrian and his husband, drinking wine and watching football, blissfully free of obligation. Christmas, I sent my parents a card. Not a holiday card, just a plain white note card with one sentence. I hope you understand now that actions have consequences. I didn't include a return address. In January, I got an email from Brooke. Sophia had lost her job at the dental office, not because of the court case, but because she'd been caught stealing petty cash. She was living with mom and dad again, sleeping in my old childhood bedroom. She's miserable, Brooke wrote. Your parents are barely speaking to each other. Your dad blames your mom for pushing the whole house thing. Your mom blames him for agreeing to it. Sophia just cries all the time. I felt nothing reading it. No satisfaction, no guilt, no vindication, just a distant acknowledgement that the natural order had reasserted itself. Thought you should know, Brooke's email concluded. Also, I'm on your side. Always was. What they did was unforgivable. I wrote back, "Thank you for the update. I hope you have a good year." We never spoke about it again. In March, the dental office contacted me about Sophia's garnishment. She'd been fired, so the payments had stopped. Did I want to pursue collection through other means? I could have. Could have gone after her tax returns, put liens on anything she owned, made her life a living hell for years. Instead, I told them to close the case, not because I forgave her, not because I felt merciful, but because the $18,000 had never been the point. The point was proving that I wouldn't be stolen from without consequences. The point was showing my family that I wasn't the compliant, convenient daughter they could use and discard. The point was freedom, and I already had that. I bought a house in Portland's Pearl District in April. 3 bedrooms, hardwood floors, a balcony overlooking the city. I furnished it carefully, thoughtfully, with pieces I chose myself. No hand-me-downs, no family heirlooms, nothing that carried the weight of people who'd proven they didn't deserve my trust. My supervisor offered me a director position in May. I accepted and celebrated by taking myself to dinner at the nicest restaurant in the city, ordering the most expensive wine on the menu, toasting my own success. On the 1-year anniversary of that hospital phone call, I was sitting on my balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky, when my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "I know you blocked me, but I need you to know I'm getting help. Therapy, job counseling, all of it. I'm trying to be better. I understand if you never forgive me, but I'm sorry, Grace. Truly sorry. Sophia." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I deleted it and poured myself another glass of wine. She was sorry now after she'd lost everything. Sorry after the consequences had ravaged her life. Sorry when it was too late to matter. I thought about responding. Thought about telling her that sorry wasn't enough, that actions had permanence, that some bridges once burned couldn't be rebuilt. But that would require caring what she thought, and I'd stopped caring the moment I'd signed those house sale papers. I blocked the new number and went back to watching the sunset. My phone stayed quiet after that. 2 years later, I'm standing in my home office, video calling with a client in Tokyo, when an email notification pops up from an estate attorney in Denver. My father died. Heart attack, sudden, 3 days ago. The funeral is tomorrow. I stare at the email long enough that my client asks if I'm still there. "Yes, sorry. Technical issue. Let's continue." I don't go to the funeral. I send flowers, generic ones, with a card that says, "My condolences." Professional, distant, the kind of courtesy you'd extend to a business acquaintance. Mom sends me a long email afterward, talking about forgiveness and family and how Dad died heartbroken that we'd never reconciled. She says Sophia's doing better, working part-time at a coffee shop, that they're both in therapy. "Your father's dying wish was that you'd come home," she writes, "that we could be a family again." I don't respond. 6 months later, Brooke tells me Sophia's engaged. Some guy she met at church, someone who doesn't know the full story. They're planning a small wedding. She wanted me to ask if you'd come, Brooke says carefully. I told her absolutely not, but she asked anyway. Good call. Are you ever going to talk to them again? I consider the question honestly. I don't know. Maybe someday, if they ever actually understand what they did. But probably not. That's fair, Brooke says, and I appreciate that she doesn't push. I think about it sometimes, late at night when the city's quiet. Wonder if I'm being too harsh, too unforgiving, too willing to write off people who raised me. Then I remember standing in that hospital bed, drains still attached, being told my home had been given away like a used coat. I remember Sophia's face as she sold my grandmother's furniture. I remember my parents taking out a loan to defend her theft. And I don't feel harsh. I feel clear. Some people spend their lives being doormats for family, swallowing mistreatment because blood is thicker than water. They set themselves on fire to keep others warm, sacrifice their boundaries at the altar of keeping the peace. I used to be one of them. Not anymore. My life in Portland is clean, uncomplicated mine. I have friends who respect me, a career I built myself, a home no one can take. I sleep soundly, eat well, laugh often. I'm not haunted by bitterness or consumed by revenge. I simply moved on, drew a line in the sand, and built a life on the other side of it. Last month, the final garnishment payment cleared. $18,200 collected over 5 years. Every penny donated to help kids who, like me, had to build their futures without family safety nets. Sophia will never know her theft funded someone else's freedom. That's the part that makes me smile. My parents handed her my home, thinking they were helping their struggling daughter. Instead, they handed her a lesson she'll carry forever. Some people will let you steal from them once, but never twice. I'm not those people. I'm the one who takes everything back, with interest. And I sleep perfectly fine with that.